Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. I am here with Ajit Nawalkha, and he's a serial entrepreneur, global educator, consultant, and he's a co-founder of Mindvalley. He's a teacher at Evercoach and the Global Grit Institute, and author of the Book of Coaching, which is an amazing book. I've read that book. It's absolutely amazing, and it's helped me with my growth and excellence. And his brand new, wonderful book, Live Big. Woo. So Ajit, why did you write this book? What was the reason behind you writing this book? It was that thing, that something inside of you that just gave you so much energy to put out. I know it was.
So it's the story started when I was running Mindvalley. So I was the CEO of the company. I'd spent several years. I started as an intern about 7-8 years before I became the CEO of the company. And that had driven, I was very passionate about it. I still am. It's a wonderful company and very purpose driven and so forth. But what had happened in context of living my career purpose, or what seemed like the life purpose and the only life purpose at the time, is that I had ended up paying for that passion through my life. Because in my journey of becoming really career-wise successful, I had started to compromise in many other areas of my life, including my health, my relationships, my family, my parents, my friendships, and so forth. Just the different things that make our lives full and complete and just like really big in a way. And I only realized when I realized, like, sometimes when you're in it, you're just in it, you just don't see it, even if it's the most obvious thing. And it takes us a while to really be able to see it and go, oh, this is what is happening with me right now. This is what is happening for me right now. And what is it that I want to do about it? And so that realization came not just one, it was like a consistent thing that kept, one of those nagging things that is in your head, like for a really long time. You're like, and you try to shrug it off because you're like, hey, listen, no, I'm living on purpose. I'm living my passion. I'm doing something good for the world, right? And constantly was there. And I was constantly going, no. It doesn't have to nag me that nothing else in life was really as satisfying as my work. And I questioned it. I was like, I understand living on purpose. I understand that we need to create something great for the world. That is our moral responsibility. But does it have to take our life? Do we have to be a martyr in the process of creating something that's beautiful and magical and amazing? And that set me off on a journey to really discover, is there more to life? Can we have a life that has all of the elements that we would like to have in our life? Can we have a life of choice where our purpose, yes, drives us, but at the same point of time, it fuels us too. It doesn't take from our life, it adds to our life, that we don't get sucked into it so bad and get so attached to it that it basically draws blood from the rest of our body to be able to fuel this one thing and one thing only. And it sounds really romantic and heroic to sacrifice your soul for this one giant purpose. And maybe it is right for a few people, but for most of us who want to enjoy life as much as we want to live on purpose and want to create something that's magical, beautiful, and adds to the beauty of the world, we want to also live a big life. And that's really set me out on a journey to question everything in a way, to question, is it really true that an entrepreneur needs to sacrifice everything because they chose to be an entrepreneur? Is it really true that no great feat has been accomplished unless you've sacrificed everything? Is it really true that as an entrepreneur, we must suffer for our vision and our passion and our purpose to come alive? And honestly, I found that it's not true, first of all. It is true for some of us, but it's not true for all of us. Most of us can create a great life and a great business at the same time. And some of us do want to create that sacrifice, but that's a choice that they make. It's not a choice that everybody has to make. We don't have to feel that if we're not sacrificing anything, which unfortunately is the case, is that we are made to feel that, oh, entrepreneurs is about sacrificing everything that you have. But that's just not true. And that's just not fair for all entrepreneurs. And that's really what Live Big's paradigm is. The invitation in the book, the invitation in the dialogue, the invitation and the perspective shift that we offer in Live Big is about saying, hey, you can have it all. you can have a great life, you can have a great business, you can impact the world in a positive way, and you can also have the greatest holiday at the same time. You don't have to burn out to create something beautiful. You can create something beautiful and live a big life.
Yeah, well said. And now let's go back to a point where you did experience, before you wrote Live Big, you had to experience something in order to write this book. So what was it when you first faced, I remember you talked about, your first entrepreneurial experience, when you literally had like your first experience. We called it the path of dust, where literally one entrepreneurial business went and then you went into the next. While explaining that, where did you experience, and I'm sure it was a number of times that you've experienced this, entrepreneurial burnout for you? I'm sure 3, 4, 5 times. And could you take us through everything that you learned every time you hit that?
So the way I define entrepreneurial burnout probably is where I was never somebody who was challenged by failure. And that's mostly because I come from a background where everything that I did in life, generally, I saw it as a bonus or a benefit or better than where I came from. So I come from a background where I grew up in a family of 23 other people. So I shared my bed with my brother at all times. That was a study room, sleeping room, playroom, guest room. All of the rooms were me and my brother's room, and that's how I grew up. So for me particularly, it was never really a thing of saying, oh, what if I fail? I was like, worst case scenario. I already lived through the worst case scenario in my mind. Now, I'm not saying people have not had worser life journeys, and I'm not trying to discount anyone, but what I'm trying to say is my perspective to life has been very different, because I've already considered that my life is already blessed in many ways, because I came from a reality where if I would have got even half of what I got or 1/4 of what I've got today, I would have already counted myself as a success and somebody who lived his life in a great way, right? So for me, I'm super blessed. And so failure was never really something that burnt me. It just propelled me. It just kind of, I had that, you can say, because of my childhood, because of how I grew up, because of the kind of schooling and education I had, resilience was kind of inbuilt in me. So that I wouldn't count that as my burnout time. But my big burnout was the moment that I was just sharing. This was the time, and the first time I felt that I don't know if I even want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know if I want any more from life, or did I want to just quit everything at that time. I wasn't suicidal or anything like that, but I was just in the mode of saying, maybe I'm done and over with for a bit. Because honestly, like I said, everything in life was crumbling down, and it seemed like I had made all the wrong decisions, and I had reached a destination at that time, or it felt like that was abundant in a way. Like I had the money, but it felt so empty, and I felt so alone, and I felt so miserable in many ways, that I did hurt people around me, like people that I loved at that time. I did hurt some of my relationships. I did hurt some of the people that I know cared for me, but I didn't care for them. And that was my life experience at that time, and so is that. But that was probably the greatest moment that I've ever felt, where I felt like it's kind of over, or I want it to be over. But before that, I've had many failures in life, but I never really felt burnt out as an entrepreneur. I was fortunate. I have been fortunate to have always a phenomenal team of people around me and human beings around me that have supported where I'm going or where I want to go, and that has been a blessing. So yeah, I wouldn't call any other moment as a burnout per se. I've failed a lot. Like I've probably burned down as many businesses as I have become successful at. But I don't, I just see it as a part of the journey. I never felt burnt out about it. I felt frustrated. I was mad at myself that I couldn't figure it out, but I wasn't burnt out. I wouldn't say that. I didn't stop because of it. Yeah.
Right. So that, I mean, that's such a phenomenal thing because, you know, a lot of people look at something where they do it one time and then all of a sudden they fall down and then they hit their back on the floor and they just stay on the ground longer than they need to be. And where did you feel like you learned where it was like, you know what, I'm going to fall down. Maybe I'm going to, you know, hit my head against the ground for a day or two, but I'm going to get back
Mhm.
up again. You know, there was a
Mhm.
point in your life where whether it was being, you know, surrounded by 23 people and you probably got a lot of experience, like a lot of environmental awareness on how to get up quicker. You know, what do you
Mhm.
think was the tool or what you learned to pick you up quicker? Hit the ground, just say, you know what, this is part of it, and I'm just going to move forward with who I am and what I'm doing in my life.
So I'll give two, and
Mm,
they are. One of them has been with me thankfully all my life, and one is a recent one. The one that has been thankfully for all my life is the tool of saying nothing is really more than an experience and more than learning. And this is thanks to my grandfather, my father, because that's the kind of individuals they are, and they embodied that in me. That everything is a learning experience. Anytime you fail, anytime you win, anytime you succeed, or anytime you move from one location to another, or whatever that is in life, life is an experience and everything is an experience. And there is no judgment to you. It is just an experience, and that's what it should be valued as, an experience. So that was very much the culture in my family. Like it was inbuilt, like my dad's like that, my grandfather's like that. So I always was like that, where I might not say it as eloquently as I say today, as it's a learning experience and so forth. At that time, it was just like, it's life and it happens and things happen. That's how I would have said it at that time when I was learning it from my family or looking at people around me and seeing it that way. It was just life. It's like, oh, something bad happened. It's just life. Oh, something great happened. Oh, well, it's just life. And so I learned to experience life as life is, which is a series of ups and downs, and it's like a heartbeat. It needs to beat, go up and down. It doesn't need to be staying straight, because that's kind of like a death sign almost. So you don't want that ever to happen, right?
right.
You want life to be like a heartbeat. So that was something that has stayed with me, and that I think has been one of the key reasons that I've been able to enjoy life despite the ups and downs. Uh, and the second one that I've recently learned, maybe in the past 5 years or so, is to create a reality that is, and I think it's Alan Watts talks about it, and a few more people talk about it. But to look at our life as a place of gratitude and as a place of ambition, and both. Like it's a balance of them both. So, for example, today, our life, wherever you are, the current reality, you might feel frustrated or excited about it, mostly because of the expectation that you have for your life, right? You are frustrated, excited, whatever that is because of the expectation that is a figment of your imagination that you created, is what is creating the anxiety, frustration, excitement, whatever that is, right? It's you saying, I need to be here. Nobody else says it. And even if somebody else says it, they don't really know you. You know you. So it's a figment of your imagination and your portrayal of where you should be. You could change it the way you want because it is your universe, right? You decide, right? So that's kind of where, firstly, you got to understand is that's why you have anxiety or frustration or burnout, even, is because of an expectation, unrealistic or realistic expectation that you have of yourself, right? That's the first thing that you need to understand. Secondly, you need to understand that if you really look at yourself 10 years ago to today, you would be in absolute awe of where you have come most of the time, right? Even if you are worse off than where you were 10 years ago, you will be in awe of your journey, because our 10 years experience usually is insanely powerful if we put it together from where we were coming in. Like if you imagine just yourself 10 years ago, you're like, oh wow, I've come far, right? Look at the smile on your face, right? You already are grateful for how far you've come, right? So that's tool number one, is to realize that in 10 years you've come really, really far. Secondly, to realize that anything that you have as whatever's creating anxiety and fear in you or excitement in you is just a figment of your imagination because of an unrealistic or realistic expectation that you've relayed on yourself. And if you move that expectation from yourself, you will find yourself in a place of joy, in a place of upswing. What happens is most of the time we set ourselves up for a year-long goal. But year-long goals are, again, something that we only get from the education system, because in school, we had a year cycle is why we have a year cycle, because people say New Year goals is why I do New Year goals. but who cares? Life is not ending in a year. Life keeps going, right? Life doesn't have a timeline. Life doesn't go, oh, it's 12 months. Show me your report card, your scorecard. Life doesn't operate that way. Life just says, hey, let's flow, right? It doesn't have a timeline, right? So what if we just not have a timeline? We say, hey, this is what I would like to experience on a daily basis. This is what my life should look like. And I'm okay if this manifests itself in 10 years from now. You see, the moment you move your year goal to a 10-year goal or a 5-year goal, immediately you're relaxed. There is no anxiety around it. There is no fear around it because there's enough time. And you need to understand life has enough time, right? Life's not keeping a scorecard. Life will never keep a scorecard. Life doesn't know how to keep a scorecard. Life just simply knows how to dance. Life is like music. It doesn't want to end. And when it ends, you're dead. So you want to let the music play, and the music needs to play. It doesn't have a timeline. The music doesn't go, oh, it's been playing for 5 minutes. You don't go for good music. It's playing for 5 minutes. You just keep playing it. You're like, hey, this is fun. Let it keep going. I don't want this symphony to end because it's just so beautiful. Why not play life like that? Play it like a symphony. Don't play it like something that is a journey and it has a destination, it needs to end. And because life's not like that. If you reach your destination in life, you're dead. You don't want to reach your destination. You want to enjoy the journey, or you want to let the symphony play, right? So these are the two realities. If you can shift, it allows you to be a lot more present because you are in a place of gratitude and not in a place of anxiety and fear and expectation. So in the current reality of yours, in the place that you stand today, you become very grateful, very joyous, very happy, and just in a place of presence of life, saying life is happening through me, I'm happening through life, and this is all beautiful.
Oh, that's great. Great said. It's like, life doesn't happen to me. It happens for me. And as you just know, like, you know what, like exactly like you said, like you're playing to the buzzer, like, no matter where the score is on the court, you're just playing to that buzzer and you're just enjoying it, whether the score's up or the score's down, you're just moving through it and moving around it, man.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved you. You said, and I had to write this quote down. It was something great you said about entrepreneurs who aren't afraid to push past their comfort zone and think way outside of the box. We're often laughed at or accused of being crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they're in a tribe of their own. But it's also, tell me more about what that means, to you and to the people that you serve.
Well, think about it like this. Anybody who's trying to create something as a product, as a service that looks a little bit extraordinary, looks a little bit different, what do we think about that service? Firstly, it's always laughed at because it's like, oh, that's not going to work, because it has never worked. It doesn't fit into the reality of what we have already perceived and seen. But once it becomes a reality, once it has become a true nature in the world, all of a sudden you go, oh, that is possible. That actually is real. And I love it. Right? Not everybody loves it, but some people love it. And those become the tribe of that entrepreneur. All entrepreneurs are trying to push the edge in one way or another. Sometimes we're trying to conform to the rules, but you start to win. And by win, I don't mean against someone. By winning, I mean win in context of where you want your reality to go. Is you start to win the moment you start to push the line, when you start to push the needle, where you start to challenge what is. Any of our businesses, any of my businesses, always are pushing the line. I don't conform to the rules of the game because there is no fun in conforming to the rules of the game. I'm here to change the game. Isn't entrepreneurship all about moving the needle a little bit more, arguing a little bit more towards the society, arguing a little bit more for a better life? That is what entrepreneurship is all about. And so is social change. I don't think there is a difference between, some entrepreneurs, of course, do it only for the money, and good on them if that's what they want. But I'm one of those who says, hey, I can make money and also do good to the world. And for me, it's all about moving the needle. It's all about pushing the line. And if I can push the line, if I can push the needle, my product needs to be different than the rest. It can't be the same, because I will not be pushing the line. I wouldn't be arguing and debating for a better future of us. So I must ask the question on what is it that I will create that maybe seems a little extraordinary, seems a little different, but at the same point of time, will move the reality, not just marginally, but significantly, but at least marginally, right? And that's where it sounds crazy as an idea pretty much at all times, but that is the point. The point is to be a little bit crazy because, again, like we already said, life is like a dance. You win some, you lose some. It doesn't matter. You miss a beat, you get a beat. It's fine. If you miss a beat, you'll get on the next one. Big deal. Such is life. right? So that's kind of the approach that I want to communicate there. But it is true nature for all entrepreneurs. It is true nature. We are always pushing Neil, and that's always a good thing.
Oh, that's great. And it's funny. I'm going to the end of your book. I'm at the last chapter. I think it's 25 with you have the dollar sign. It has that Prince kind of symbol, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I love that. And it's just, on the flip side, I also believe, like, I read that chapter and it was just so deeply infilled, because a lot of people, just think the passion and purpose, yeah, you need money to a point, and then everything seems to shift. But you need money to invest in your business to grow yourself. And a lot of people just think, what, my passion is just going to carry me, my purpose, my practicality. But no, you need that energy to surface in that business so it can grow. And I love how each chapter you take and you just show a little different view, a little different perspective. And I think that's what makes that book so strong, is like, yeah, I can take that book, I can put it on my nightstand, and anytime I can open that book up and look at it and say, what, this is what I need today, because I'm here growing a business. I'm here trying to make a difference in people's lives. And you know what? I'm reading this, and it doesn't matter where I read it, because everywhere there's a little bit of magic. There's a little bit of spice. There's a little bit of creativity. Right.
Thank you for that, Raymond.
Yeah,
That was the intention of the book. That was the intention, just to show a different perspective and to invite to a different perspective. Because I inherently believe, as entrepreneurs, as people who are building businesses, especially, we are very brave, smart people. Because we are smart, because taking the path of entrepreneurship is risky, but the rewards or the returns are magnifying, right? And not only money wise, otherwise as well, like just satisfaction wise. So that's a very smart thing to do. And then it is brave thing to do, because as an entrepreneur, you put your product out and you tell everybody, then you put it in front of the world and you say, world, you can take all the jabs at it now, because it is my product, and you get the right, when I put it out, to take a jab at it, right? So it's a very brave thing to do, and it is a very intellectual thing to do. It's a very smart thing to do. And so my argument when I wrote this book was that I just need to provide a perspective. If I can share a perspective, the entrepreneurs will find the strategy. The entrepreneurs will know what to do next from the perspective. They can take the perspective and run with it. And that's exactly what you highlighted as well. And that's really the point of the whole book, is to say, hey, I just want to offer a little bit more insight, a little bit different perspective, and hopefully it'll change the direction of where you pursue as the next step for your company.
Right. Because, yeah, I also want to hop to that the chapter. I think it's Happy First, and you have that Steve Jobs quote, and a lot of people, they know him, as this prolific person that's influenced, but they kind of take that different perspective of what you said during that book. Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
So for me, it's very important for us as entrepreneurs to find our happiness at the core of it all. And that's kind of the summary of the chapter, Happy First, is to be able to find that happiness in that place of joy. Because what we don't want as entrepreneurs is to be able to like create this beautiful entity, in the process die. Because that's just no point doing it. Like it just is, it's a burden to the people that we create these amazing products for, because they we don't need that burden of an entrepreneur's death or anxiety and fear. And we have lost a lot of entrepreneurs to bad health at this point. We have lost a lot of entrepreneurs to anxiety. We have had suicides from great entrepreneurs, people we love and adore. There is no, if we can somehow not have that, I think it'll be great, because these people are phenomenal individuals and we love to have them for longer. I would love to have them for longer. And my argument in that chapter is to say, hey, you don't have to sacrifice yourself to build a great company. You don't want to be unhappy and unsatisfied and destroy your family in the process of trying to serve the larger humanity or this grand purpose. And that's my argument for that, because I do believe that these really smart, beautiful, amazing human beings can live longer and create beautiful things, even for a longer period of time, if they chose to be happy first. And that's really my argument in the chapter, or my perspective.
Right. It's a great perspective. I just love how every view is just a little bit different, and it just gives you just a little bit more. Like I read this 3 times, and when I read it, I I would always pick up just something a little bit more different from just a different angle. Okay, let me look over here. And I was just questioning how my perception is. So this book, I know, Living Big, is going to help people just discover a little bit more of who they are, and I think that's, yeah, dude, absolutely. And I'm a fan. I'm still reading your first book, and I have literally sticky papers everywhere. I'm going through, and on top of that, off Living Big, you're offering an online version of that too, so you could deeper dive into that. So you can look at like each chapter and Ajit over, it's Mindvalley Evercoach, into the videos. He places more. He gives so much more than what that chapter offers. So you could do a deeper dive and really truly understanding how you connect to yourself and the deeper version of who you want to be, and the businesses and ventures that you want to put yourself into. So I think, it's just not, it's more than a book. It's like a college experience without the college, with like a whole world of knowledge, man. And yeah, and it's amazing. So let's go. I loved how you opened up the introduction of your book with the top 5 regrets of dying, because a lot of people, like, I do this equation with people saying, hey, imagine if you lived to 90 and you subtracted the amount of years you have now and you multiplied the days you're going to be on this earth. That's how many days you have left on this planet, to do what you love. How many times you're going to go see your family and notice, okay, I live here and I'm seeing my family only 10 more times before I'm this age, depending on how often you see them. But you brought that up as something, the top 5 regrets of dying. What was that you need to, like, give people as a gift to really realize where they're at in life? Because I know in life, sometimes life just goes by, and then all of a sudden we're 50, 60, and we're like, wait, I really wanted to open up that business. I wanted to do that thing. I wanted to do this, and I never did. And now I'm looking back in time, and I'm looking up, and I see these people around me, and they're saying goodbye to me, and I'm holding their hand and realizing I didn't live the big life I really wanted to. So
my invitation to anybody listening to this, or generally it's been shared and whoever's listening to it, is always be like, and this was a thing that one of my friends once said. And he said this because he almost had a near-death experience. He was driving his car. He got hit by he got hit on those things that are in the middle of I don't know what are they called, where they're dividers of the road.
Oh, yeah, the merge. The merge.
Yeah, those things. So he smashed his car into it, and he almost died, right? So when he woke up from that whole, like, bizarre situation, he realized, oh, shit, I almost died. Like, I really should have been dead, right? And he once said in a passing comment, he's like, that's why I just treat my life as a bonus at this point, right? And that stuck with me. I've not had a near-death experience. I'm fortunate that way. But at the same point in time, I realized all of our lives, if we treat our lives as a bonus, we would take a lot more risk. We will play a little bit more. We would play in a way where it's almost, like, there is nothing to really lose because we already played the game. This is the bonus round, right? The bonus round is like the freebie that you get in the end. But what we do is we get so stiff about our life. We get so concerned about what the world would think, what would people think. Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? Am I doing right? Am I doing wrong? But really, life is a bonus at this point. We can really play that way. It's okay if, so here's an argument. How much more money is enough money? Because that seems to be the biggest reason for most of the people to not play, right? Because they're like, oh, no, I need more money. But we all know there is never going to be enough money. Subconsciously, we know this is the easiest chase, is why we create this chase. The easy thing to do is to make more money. The hard thing to do is to really go, hey, what is it that I really want? The hard thing to do is to maintain a relationship or create a relationship. The hard thing to do is to have those tough conversations. Those are the hard things to do. To slog 10 more hours in the office, that's the easy game. We try to tell us, oh, I'm working so hard. Well, try to have a conversation with your spouse about the fight that you had the last time, right? Or reconnect with that friend that you hold a grudge against, or say sorry, or be able to forgive someone. That's the hard thing. That's the hard game. And we're not willing to play that game. None of us are, right? And that's where the hard game really is. But the hard game is actually easy once you play it like a bonus round, once you play it like a play, and you all of a sudden realize, hey, I don't need to hold a grudge with somebody. I can forgive that friend. I can reconnect with my parents or with my spouse, or I can reconnect in a very different way. I can rediscover and recreate my life at any point. And it's not going to be easy. I'm not saying you'll walk in and tomorrow you'll have magic and tomorrow it'll happen. No, but nothing is. But let's treat it like a play. Let's treat it like a game. And we see how the life turns out to be, is instead of becoming this, like we all become these martyrs for some reason, like we think like we are sacrificing for our friends, we're sacrificing for family, we're sacrificing our dreams, we're sacrificing for our boss, we're sacrificing for our employees. We don't need to sacrifice anything. What if we were more like tricksters? What if we were more like people who are playing a video game? What if we thought of this as an alternate reality and said, hey, I'm here with as many lives as I want. I can play as well as I want, right? And if I can do that, I can create a whole new life. I could have a whole new reality. I could have as much fun as I want, and I wouldn't feel guilty about it at all. Because guess what? That's what life is. That's what is at offer for me. We just don't treat it that way. And because we don't treat it that way, we get all stiff and we get all restrictive about it and we get all unsure about it. Instead of that, why not just play? Like if we'll play, we'll see. I mean, what is the worst case scenario? None of us are firefighters. We are not, not none of us, some of us are. And I understand their lives are at risk, and police officers, their lives are at risk. If you are in an emergency room, you are saving lives. You are in risky business. I get it. And we're very grateful for all of those wonderful human beings in army or any type of battlefield. Those are people that are risking lives. But us, if your business fails, you don't die. You don't have to. You don't have to get anxious about it. We get anxious about it because we feel like the world's going to end, but the world's not going to end. The businesses fail, you start another one, right? Or you'll do something else. You'll still be great. You will be further in your journey, but we don't see it that way. We think it's a judgment of the world that is coming at us just because the business didn't work, or just because we didn't grow as much as we should grow, or we didn't look good. But who cares? Who cares?
100%. I'm on board. And I love listening to everything you're saying because it just comes from, you have vast experience in this. And in your book, it's like distilling your knowledge of like 10, 20 years of everything that you have to pour into your heart, your soul, your mind, your body, your spirit, and everything that you're putting in. And again, play. And I also believe, a lot of things come back to the basics, right? Like air, consciousness, water, how we eat, how we move, how we sleep. And that's one thing about entrepreneurialism, or whatever you want to call it, is that we don't sleep enough. We're always trying to balance, different edges. Like I remember I could go 2 nights without sleep, and then on the third one I'm done, and then I have to crash. But then I'm always saying, I always do a scale on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, how did I eat today? I can control how I eat. I can control how I move. Okay, I'm tired. Can I take a nap later in the day? Maybe I could do 30 minutes. But it's always questioning yourself and just constantly, doing that. So you can really just come up and show up and play, because life is like a video game. At the end, every day, guess what? Game over until we wake up to the next day. And then, okay, we're ready again. We're, player one again,
Yeah. And I mean, really, is it worth not sleeping? No, sleep. It is fine. Eat well. Like it's really okay. We don't do life-threatening work. We don't have to act like we are. We are doing work that we do. And if it's not pleasurable, what's the point of doing it? Let's not make entrepreneurship a glorified job. Entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. It is about freedom. It's about choice. It is about whatever it is for you, but it definitely wasn't about saying, how can I slog myself to death? That was never, nobody started a business saying, I would love to work 18-hour days so I don't get any sleep and I always stay anxious.
No.
Who was at the mission that? Nobody started with that as an idea. Then why are we pursuing it? We have the control to change it. Let's just freaking change it.
Right. And it's insane that, like, and it took me a while to learn this, like where that freedom is, where that gap is, it's, structure and boundaries. And once you get those structure and boundaries, you choose your freedom and you can show up and you can play more and you do what needs to get done, but then you alleviate more time so you can do that. And I feel like I'm still learning these lessons as people teach them to me. And I'm an open book. I love learning new things. Like I love learning everything. You tell me, and I'm like, oh man, I'm sprouting, I'm growing, I'm planting more seeds. And I encourage people who listen to this, listen to what Ajit is saying. And like, man, like he's just making you a better version of yourself just by listening to the words and all the power he has and all the, he's been through, some people it may not be rough, but other people, some of the stuff he's been through may be rough, but learn the lessons that you can literally pick. You can pick the seeds out and feed yourself and say, okay, I can identify to that. That's good. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, just take what you want out of this book and out of the words that he's speaking. So I wanted to talk about, last and not least, the death of desires. I love that because I know, some desires I call distractions, right? Some people, distractions turn into desires, where they're checking their phone or that. But I maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I think you hear it in a different context, right? The death of desires.
Yeah, I call it death by desires. It's
By
not death of
desires.
desires, death
Okay.
by desires. It's basically what happens is in our lives, especially in today's time. Like, you go on your Instagram feed and you look at other people, and you go your Facebook, you look at other people, you go to YouTube, you look at other people. There's a lot of times when we are taking outside in conversations in our life, like people who are reflecting on our life, and we start to construct our life trying to be like somebody, trying to be a version of them or looking up to them. So in the previous times, we would look up to people and go, okay, they're great examples, and we would start to pursue just by looking at examples. But now we're starting to try to copy people just because we can see a lot more of them, right? Because it's easily accessible and available. You could look up an Instagram post right now and you feel like they're these perfect human beings that you always constantly see. And it builds these desires in us about things that we don't actually want. Because we think, looking at somebody else, hey, I would like that. But do you really want it? Or is it more because they have it is why you would like that? Right? And often it is not that you want it. You just like looking at somebody and you're going, hey, I would like that because that person has it. And that's the unfortunate circumstance that we all live in. We have desires that are not desire that are coming from inside out, which is from your heart, you really going deep down and saying, this is what I want for myself. It is usually designed by outside in. What do other people have, and what would I like of all of that, right? It's a very different conversation. You want the conversation. Ideally, it would be nice to have a conversation where the conversation was inside out, where you from your heart said, this is what I would like my life to look like. And then you work towards creating that life. Or you show up and the life already is like that, whatever is the way it will show up finally. But not from the say of saying, okay, what would I like from their life, their life, their life? Because what also happens is often what we look at all these different lives, and after meeting all these people whose lives you look at, I've had the good fortune of really actually interacting with them, sitting down with them, having dinners or lunches with them. It's not, their 30 seconds is not 24 hours. You're watching their 3-minute video, doesn't tell their 24 hours of their life. It's only a 3-minute video. It's a 5-minute video constructed and edited and beautifully put together. It's not the perfect life that you think it is. They also have their series of challenges. You need to know what success feels like for you, not how it looks like, because what it looks like on the outside of a lot of other people is not exactly how they feel at all times. It's one of the, you see a fragment of it, a small fragment. This, what we are seeing right now, is an hour-long conversation with me. This is not 24 hours of my day, right? It's, I do fall into the ups and the downs. I enjoy it, but at the same point in time, I do go into ups and the downs. And that's why we need to be aware of ourselves and go, hey, that's their 30 seconds of their life, firstly. So I don't need to compare. Secondly, I need to first figure out what life for me should look like. And let's start from creation instead of trying to react and compare. Let's go to creation and go, okay, what is it that I want to create in my life? And you create that.
Oh, that's yeah, exactly. It's funny because I have some friends who, like, I have a friend who's who does the Tahoe 200, and he does the Moab, the 240-mile race. But the thing is, he just shows up. He just says, you know what, this is me. I'm exhausted. I literally fell asleep on the ground. A spider walked over my head. I couldn't, you know, just, and he just shows up and he says, this is me at my lowest and this is me at my highest. And, you know, another guy, Ryan Mickler, same thing. Ryan shows you how he is, and he's a friend of mine, and he just shows like, dude, I'm exhausted today. But, you know, and that's real. And then there's the entrepreneurs who, yeah, you see that and you're like, wow, how does, you know, it just feels like so surreal, you know, and it's not the truth. And you got to find that truth for you and for me and what that is for me. right? So now in saying that, let's go to the last thing. We got a few minutes left. Intuitive intelligence, and again, that would be something that you could bring out that just complemented what you just said of having that intuitive, deep knowing. Because as entrepreneurs, we're creative, right? We're like geniuses with creation, and then the businesses, and it's like how to balance that business and kind of put that dial in there and get the right amount of both.
So for me, it's a not to discuss topic of intuition, and I feel like most entrepreneurs have it, and we tend to ignore it. And that's why I wrote that chapter, Intuitive Intelligence, because I do feel as entrepreneurs, we respect when it's more scientific and when it can be justified and be analytical and so forth. And what we tend to forget is only about 5 to 7% of our brain is actually conscious, and about 90 to 95% of our mind is actually unconscious or subconscious, as they call it, which is the brain that is, the mind that is just taking data, is taking input, is taking information, is just collecting at the back of our head. What happens is a lot of times we don't feed our brain enough for it to keep collecting the data to come up with the best idea. And then sometimes we don't give it the space to actually have that idea. So for example, we read a lot of books, but we are so on the treadmill at all times. By that, I mean, we are just go at all times, that even if you read a book, if you don't read a book, watch this podcast, listen to a great interview, or read, watch a program, whatever that is, go to a seminar. If you don't let your brain have the space to really process it, it doesn't allow intuition to really show up. Now, intuition can be practiced, of course, by creating more affirmative action towards your intuition and checking on it. Meditation and so forth helps help you enhance your intuition, because it enhances the ability of your mind to really process more information and coming up with deeper insights. But even if you don't do any of that, you have the capability of having intuitive ideas. It's one of those things where you go, oh, I have this brilliant idea. Those brilliant ideas can be manufactured. You can have more of them by just designing your life in a way which is constant feeding to your brain, and then constant space for your brain to be able to really process that insight and come up with the idea and that new epiphany that you may feel like it's an epiphany, but it is actually the thing that really is breakthrough for the company. And you would know that as an entrepreneur, you would see that your best ideas never came while you were typing the next email. It just never comes that way. It came through when you were taking a bath. It came through when you were doing the most boring thing ever, right? You were doing the thing that is like mundane pretty much, while you were driving the same road for the 100th time, right? That's when the best ideas come. The reason best ideas come at that time is because your brain is in that mode where it can process the complex data and come up with a new insight, which is why fold your laundry, it's fine. Cook a meal, it's fine. Go for a drive uselessly, it's fine. Because when you're doing all this boring work, as I call it, you actually give your brain that space to be able to go, oh, okay, let me put these dots together that I have. Maybe I'll come up with a new insight. And for business and for life, shows up because you have a lot of boring time.
So tell me about your favorite cooking there. I know you love to cook, and that's probably a lot of where your ideas stem from, right? When you're cooking, when you're doing your thing in the kitchen with your wife, Nita, you know, that is that one of the things you do, kind of to like to spark?
It's one of my daily things. I literally just was cooking for my wife, and then I came back for this podcast. But yeah, so I cook pretty much every day. Not every day, but kind of every day, almost every day. And that's something that just fuels me. I get a lot of ideas at that time, and we get into meaningful love conversations as well. At that time, it is important for me to be able to create a life of where I have it all. Like I like to not shortchange anything. So I want to have a great relationship, and I want to love on my friends. I want to love on my parents. I want to love on my business partners. Then I want to have a great business at the same time. I want to be able to have great health. So I don't like to shortchange anything. I don't like to go, oh, I'll compromise this or that. And so I create space for all of these things. So I have space in the afternoon because I know my wife usually is done with her morning routines, and I'm done with my morning routine around work. And so we meet back for lunch, and then we go back into whatever is the rest of the day that we have designed for ourselves to unfold. Sometimes the rest of the day is just hanging out together, and sometimes it's completely different. Either of those are right answers. The point really is that you reconvene, you reconnect, you reposition, you find new things, you do interesting things together. And so cooking is one of them. That is that, and I like to cook any types of cuisine. I'm not biased towards a particular cuisine. I like to learn new things, so I do a lot of cooking classes as well, and I just love to cook. It's just something that is very fun for me.
Yeah, and I think it's like something deep that people have, some kind of like passion or hobby just outside of what they do because it's freeing. It just gives you something. Like me personally, I love to write. I love to come up with all these great film ideas, and then I pitch them and I make a little bit of green from it. But
Yeah.
it's still something that I love to do. So I got two more questions before I
Mm-hmm.
wrap this up for you. And I wanted you to talk because I believe a lot of people do not know how to get in touch with that intuitive part of themselves. I know it comes from here, but how do you look for signs? Like, I know you're very in touch with yourself. You know, you're a creative. You're very deep, and I
Mm-hmm.
know you feel energy, and we could get
Mm-hmm.
all woo woo, but you really feel like how could you
Mm-hmm.
guide someone to feel that intuition that they know
Um,
and love, and that will help them grow?
so I think it's practiced. So the more you listen, the more it is available to you. So it is something that is a little bit more practiced, and as you do more and more and more of it, you tend to know that it is going to be there. So it's a lot about listening than actually being able to practice something. I mean, definitely some of the things that allow your mind to really relax and get comfortable with itself, like hypnosis, like meditation, all of that is important. And without that, it's harder to listen because our mind is always in a chatter mode, right? So you're always in chatter, 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 chatter.
Mm,
It's very hard for you to listen when your brain's always going like that. But when you slow down to just meditate and slow down and be in the place of just joy and bliss and be present with yourself, it allows you to be able to listen more easily. So that's the first thing. If somebody is completely unknown to intuition, and somebody's completely unknown to having that gut feeling and strong gut
mm,
feeling, I would say start meditating. That's a good small step to take. It's not complicated. It's people make more of it. You don't have to do the monk like sit down and nothing should cross your mind type of thing. You can practice simple meditations like creative visualization, or you can start with hypnosis where somebody else is guiding you. However you prefer, it's absolutely okay.
right.
But that's the way to get started. Start easy, start simple, and as you start, you will see slowly and progressively you'll start to hopefully appreciate it. And if you start to appreciate it, you will see you will have a lot more listening. If not, then create boring time in your life. Sometimes creating boring time, and it will look different for different people. Don't do something that needs you to intellectually be there. That's what is important part of boring time. You don't intellectually need to be there. You are doing a mundane job which doesn't need you to create a process or anything like that, which is, I said, folding laundry. It's kind of like it's a brainless job to do, right? But creating that space, I believe, gives your brain the space to be able to put the thoughts together. And you might get some insights, but you want to be able to listen to it for it to really become real on a consistent basis. Otherwise, it'll come, but you're not really listening. So again, if you're in your thoughts, it's really hard to really do that.
Right. And it's like, it's funny. I read this
And
book. Oh, go ahead.
if,
Sorry.
sorry, one last bit. If you have the money to do it, then go ahead and do 40 years of Zen. It is a program that is run by Dave Asprey. I think he's an investor in the company. And do that. It's a 5-day meditation retreat. They'll hook your brain up to get into alpha state more easily, and that will increase your intuition levels.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, no, I do a thing called the Thinkitation, which I think Tom Bilyeu made famous, or someone said it, but it's just like getting your thoughts and then writing about them and finding out that peak thing that's moving me. Okay, what problem am I trying to solve today? And
Mm-hmm.
it's great. But yeah, I'll write that down. Also, one last thing. I love how you say business is love and business is personal, because people do not look. Sometimes they look at business as a very logic brain and the very, it's like hunting and like gathering. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at it as like, you're giving results in advance, you're just loving up people, as
Mm-hmm.
coaches, what we do, like I'm a coach, you're a coach, we give. And then once, oh my God, they get that confidence, they do it. Look what I did. Oh my God, this is what I did. So explaining that, I think more people need to hear that, man. Business is love and business is personal. Could you just share a
Yes.
little bit of tidbit on that, man?
Well, and especially today's, actually not even today's time, it has been always true. The entrepreneurs that have created great things have done it for love of something. Sometimes it has been love of other people. Sometimes it has been because of love for technology, love for growth, love for humanity. Whatever that is, any great business is on the foundation of love. Sometimes it has not showed up and as powerfully for the world as it could, but for the time that it was created, it was still powerful, and that's why it thrived. Like, for example, the oil industry. Like, at the time when it was founded, it was the most useful thing that could have happened for the world. So it was great that it happened. It was great that we made the progress that we made, that today we are thinking about, hey, how do we get rid of so much dependency on non-renewable resources like oil, right? So, but for the journey for that to happen at that time, it was somebody's love for saying, hey, this will help humanity in a different way. They also had a love for money at that time, but that doesn't, like, that's okay. That could also be a part of the love, but usually love is involved in some way or another, in that whole gamut of creating a phenomenal business. And I think anybody who takes business as non-personal is missing the point because business is completely personal, which is why we hear the legends of entrepreneurs and we become legends of entrepreneurship and different realities, because it is personal. It is true. It is a reflection of the personality that grows the business. After a point, business takes its own value system. So it is that it starts personal and it may grow out to not be personal, but it starts as personal. So a business that is a new, young, small to medium-sized business is about the entrepreneur. It is not about anything else. It is not a different entity yet. It is something that is becoming an entity and may become an entity at some point. But for the longest time, it is going to stay personal. It will be about the entrepreneur. And it is about the entrepreneur. It is about the drive of the entrepreneur. It is about the drive of where the entrepreneur wants to go. And their values define the company values.
Yeah, so guys, when you're listening to this, really take this into your mind and listen and get out a pen, get out a piece of paper and take notes, because, you know, what Ajit is doing here is dropping some knowledge bombs for anyone that wants to take their life to the next level. And they want to grow. They want to experience excellence in their life. They want to experience a passion. They want to experience the practicality and the purpose, you know, and live big is for that person that wants to get to another level, but do it in such a smart way where they actually thrive in life, where they're pursuing excellence instead of the end goal. They're learning the process, that the process is just as beautiful. So Ajit, we're going to wrap this up. And oh my God, thank you. I appreciate you being here more than you know. You're a gem. And I would love, do you have any last words that you would like to say? And also, where can people find you and discover you and get to know you, love you, and like you, and trust you, and all that stuff?
Thank you so much, man. You can just find me at livebigthebook.com. It has all my social media links. It'll redirect you to the page to get a copy of the book. And at the same point of time, if you want to just connect, you'll find the links to connect with me directly. Like you already mentioned, with the book comes an online course. It's a 21-day course, where also we directly get to connect. So it just comes as a bonus. You don't have to pay separately for it. So that would be a good way and a good place to connect generally, is to just go out to this link, livebigthebook.com. And as a last thought, I would just want to leave everybody with the idea of saying, hey, you have a choice. You always have a choice. There is a choice. It may be a hard choice. It may not be easy. It may sound painful. It may feel like, no, I don't have it. But you do have a choice. You can change your reality if you choose to change your reality. You can grow the business and have a life at the same time. It is not an impossible thing to do. It is something that is possible. It will need the work that it needs, but it is possible. So I want to invite you to remember that there is a choice that you have. You just have to make it.
Guys, and make that wonderful choice. Again, I want to thank Ajit for being here. And this is Raymond J. Negron with Beyond Failure to Reach Success. Have an excellent day.